My best friend Ben had invited me to spend the night because his parents were going out and wouldn't be back till late. We both cycled over to meet up at the local mall, which was about halfway between his house and mine. After clowning around for a while, we had a milkshake and then set off for Ben's house. We were riding across the parking lot when a guy in a beaten-up old pickup suddenly cut in front of us. We both flicked him the bird and shouted at him. We continued across the lot. Then Ben suddenly shouted, "Hey, Jimmy, that guy's coming after us." I looked around, and the pickup had done a 180 and was heading straight back towards us. He was faster, but we were more maneuverable, and we had no trouble giving him the slip. As we weaved through the parked cars, all the guy in the pickup could do was hit the horn and scream at us. At the edge of the lot, we crossed a patch of scrubland and went into the woods. This was the quickest way back to Ben's house, and we knew every trail. We were about halfway when Ben pulled up. I stopped next to him. "Listen," he said. There was a car driving fast down the dirt road through the woods used by the Forest Service, but this was Saturday and they weren't working. We pulled our bikes into some bushes and crouched down, just in time to watch the car speed by in a cloud of dust. It was the same old pickup, and the guy driving it looked really mad. As soon as he'd gone past, we got back on our bikes and rode as fast as we could to Ben's house. We were soon sitting in front of the TV playing video games, with popcorn and snacks sprawled out across the floor. The angry guy in the pickup was quickly forgotten. Late afternoon faded into early evening, and it was dark and raining outside when we heard a car pull into the driveway. "Quick, tidy up. That must be Mom and Dad home early," said Ben. I started picking up the popcorn, and Ben peered out of the front window. "Holy crap, Jimmy. It's the guy in the pickup." We hadn't yet switched the lights on, and Ben turned off the TV so that we were in the dark. We crept back over to the window and looked out. The guy was out of his car, walking around. He looked dirty and scruffy like a tramp with uncombed hair and a scraggly beard. But he was tall and he looked tough and mean. He went to the side of the garage, picked our bikes up one by one, and threw them into the bushes. Then he turned and walked towards the house. Neither of us spoke. We were petrified. The guy tried the front door and banged his fist on it a few times. Then it all went quiet. "Maybe he's gonna just go," I whispered. "Damn it," cried Ben. "The back door isn't locked." Bent over double, we sneaked into the kitchen to lock the back door. But just as we entered, the guy was standing at the kitchen window, staring straight at us. "Quick," said Ben, shoving me backwards. We ran up the stairs into his room and he put the latch on the door. We could hear the guy walking around downstairs, and I hoped he might just steal some stuff and go away. Then to my horror, his footsteps started coming up the stairs. I got into the closet and Ben squeezed under the bed. I peeked out through the keyhole, terrified. Ben's school backpack was on the floor, and I searched inside it for something to defend myself with. I found a geometry compass in his pencil case. It wasn't much, but it was pointed, and it was all there was. I imagined myself sticking it in the guy's eye. I heard him open the door to Ben's parents' room, and a couple of seconds later, he crossed the hallway. Trembling with fear, I watched as the door handle went down. The door was locked, but then he barged into it and it burst open. He looked really huge, his silhouette lit up by the light from the stairwell. "Scum like you ain't giving me the finger," he growled. I could smell the beer on his breath from inside the closet. He walked over to the bed, leaned down and grabbed Ben's foot. He started dragging him out and Ben fought to hold on with all his might. But the guy was far too strong. He pulled Ben from under the bed and began to throw wild punches down at him. Ben was lying on his back screaming his head off and doing his best to kick out. For a couple of seconds I froze, panicking and too scared to move. Then Ben cried out, "Jimmy! Help! Help!" His screams shook me out of my trance. I opened the door of the closet and lunged at the guy who was still struggling to hit Ben. I planted the compass as hard as I could in the middle of the guy's back, right between the shoulder blades. He let out an almighty roar and stood up, trying to pull it out. It was our chance to escape, and we didn't waste it. Ben scrambled upright and we dashed out of the bedroom, flew down the stairs, and raced out the back door. It was raining hard. At the end of the garden, we threw ourselves over the back fence and sprinted into the woods, running fast until we were out of breath. We hid in some bushes and waited. After a couple of minutes, Ben whispered, "Jimmy, he's coming. Get up. We've got to get out of here." We sprinted through the woods, bumping from tree to tree, with the crunching leaves betraying our position. Finally, I stumbled and fell. Ben crouched down next to me, and we listened. After a minute or so, we heard him getting nearer. From the sound of his footsteps, he seemed to be staggering. Then he stopped, just a short distance from us. We could hear him breathing heavily and groaning. It was dark and rainy, and you couldn't see more than a few feet. I guess that's probably what saved us. Anyway, the guy groaned once more, and then we heard him turn and stagger back the way he'd come. We waited for about half an hour, huddled together and trembling with fear. Eventually, cold and wet, we decided to go back and see what the guy was doing. We made our way towards the house real cautiously, trying not to make a sound as we stumbled through the trees. Then we crept along the edge of the woods to where we could see the front of the house. The pickup had gone. But there in the driveway were our bikes, a twisted, mangled mess. The guy must have pulled them out from the bushes and driven over them. We called the police, and they came and took samples of the guy's blood from stains on the kitchen floor. I must have hurt him quite badly, but the sample didn't match up with any they already had, and they never found out who it belonged to. So I guess the moral of this tale is, think twice before you flip the bird at a stranger, because that crazy guy in the pickup is still out there, somewhere. Please don't go without clicking on like and subscribe, so you won't miss the next spine-chilling tale from the dark side.